Imagine yourself waking just before dawn. The air in your room is cold, so still it almost hums. You sleep on a straw mat that smells faintly of dust and time. Outside, the first soft creaks of the wooden floorboards signal movement in the main house. It is time to rise. You are a servant in a mid-ranking samurai household, not a warrior, not a noble, but not quite a peasant either. Your life is, in between, defined by boundaries. Not just physical walls, but invisible ones of class, speech, gesture. Your tasks begin before your master even opens his eyes. First, you must prepare his morning. The room must be warm, though you are not. His kimono must be brushed smooth and laid out in precise layers. Tea, brewed not too hot, not too cool. You will not hear his displeasure, but you will feel it later perhaps, when you are reassigned to cleaning latrines in silence. If it is too bitter, your hands are always busy, scrubbing armor until it shines but shows no fingerprints, polishing swords you will never carry into battle, learning the rituals, the dozens of gestures and bows, each subtle shift in tone. All must be performed flawlessly, as though you yourself are part of the house furniture, but you are not meant to be noticed. But if you are noticed, it must only be for perfection. You live by rules you never wrote. There is the rule of seniority: older servants always come first. There is the rule of silent speech as a rare luxury. And above all, the rule of honor your master's honor, which means if he is shamed, you are shamed. If he falls, you fall. The days are long. Each hour has a task, and each task has a precise way to be done. Folding clothes the old way, not the new way. Listening for the subtle ring of the bell that calls you, never running, always gliding. And at night you sleep lightly, for the samurai may awaken with a request, or a need, or a displeasure that requires someone to blame. There are no holidays of vanishing when not needed, and appearing precisely when you are. Only the rare festival day, when you might glimpse your family, perhaps for an hour. But even then, you do not speak freely. The samurai live by Bushido, the way of the warrior, but there is no word for the way of the servant. Yours is the path of stillness. Sometimes, you carry messages across long distances, walking for days on end. Other times, you must clean the aftermath of your master's duel. His sweat, not his blood. Always, you wait, you kneel, you listen. You age faster, but are never seen to grow old. Your name might be remembered, but most likely, it will not. Yet your master's legacy is power, his grace. His victories rests quietly on the foundation you've built in this life. Your greatest achievement is to be invisible, and your greatest failure is to be noticed for the wrong reason, echoing through the paper walls and swept courtyards of history. But now, we leave this silent world behind and move gently into another tale. And so, in the stillness of the early night, you return to your small room. You light a single candle and prepare, silently, to do it all again. Tomorrow the soft rhythm of that life continues. Now, let us drift a little further into the past, into a true story whispered through the centuries, one that speaks not of battles or empires, but of loyalties drawn out over months and carried with unbearable stillness. This is the tale of the 47 Rōnin. It begins not with a clash of swords, but with quiet offense. The year is 1701. Edo, what is now Tokyo. The shogun's court is a labyrinth of etiquette, hierarchy, and ever-watchful eyes. To exist here is to walk across thin ice, with each gesture, each word, carrying weight. Lord Asano Naganori, a young daimyo from the province of Ake, he had been ordered to receive and entertain imperial envoys during their stay in Ide. For this delicate duty, he was instructed in courtly protocol by a high-ranking official, Kira. Now, Kira was powerful, respected, but also rumored to be exacting. He expected gifts, deference, flattery. Asano, proud and upright, did not offer what Kira believed was due. Tensions built, invisible at first, silent in the hallways. Then, one morning, beneath the painted rafters of Ido Castle, a brief moment shattered everything. Kira insulted Asano, perhaps subtly, perhaps cruelly. We do not know the exact words, but they struck deep. In a sudden, forbidden burst of anger, Asano drew his blade, a short slash of wound, not fatal, but enough. Drawing a weapon within the shogun's castle was an unthinkable offense. By sundown, Asano had been ordered to commit seppuku ritual suicide. No trial, no appeal. His lands were confiscated. His samurai disbanded. And just like that, the house of Asano was dissolved. Now, in most stories, this is where it would end, but not in this one. Asano's loyal retainers, now Rōnin, masterless, did not forget, and among them was Kishi Kuranasuke, the chief counselor. Gishi did not weep. He did not protest. Instead, he bowed, stepped back, and vanished into months of silence. He knew the shogunate would expect revenge, so he made them forget. He sent the other retainers away, dispersed them. He himself began to drink in public. He stumbled through the streets of Kyoto, was seen in pleasure houses, even divorced his wife. All of it a performance. He was biding time, luring Kira into false confidence. And then, almost 2 years after Asano's death, in the cold hours before dawn, on the 14th day of the 12th lunar month, the 47 Rōnin they moved through the snow-covered streets in silence. Lanterns dimmed, swords drawn, their breath misting in the air. They entered Kira's mansion with precision, subduing guards and searching every corner. Eventually they found him, hiding in an outhouse. They presented him with a dagger, the same one Asano had used to end his life. They offered Kira the chance to die with honor, but he refused. So, the Rōnin ended his life for him. They washed his head and carried it through the sleeping city, all the way to Asano's grave, where they laid it in offering. Then, they surrendered. The shogunate was faced with a dilemma. The law was clear. Vengeance was forbidden, but so was disloyalty, the people whispered. These men had upheld Bushido to its purest form. After weeks of deliberation, the shogun passed judgment. Each one, including Jishi, prepared himself. The Rōnin were ordered to commit seppuku, and so they wore white. They bowed. They ended their lives as warriors, not criminals. Today, they are buried side by side, near the grave of their master, at Sangakuji Temple in Tokyo. Every year, visitors bring incense and flowers, and every year, the snow falls quietly over their graves, as it did on the night they fulfilled their final duty. Silence and unwavering devotion. This is not a tale of violence, though it ends in blood. It is a story of patience, a story where action was measured in years, and where the loudest cries were never heard aloud. Now, let us step gently into a quieter realm still, one where truth and myth mingle like mist over a pond, where the world of the living was never truly separate from the world of the unseen. We are now in the Edo period, a time of relative peace, but also of deep introspection, where lanterns glowed softly in paper-walled homes, and the nights stretched long and still. In these hushed hours, people told stories, not just any stories, but stories of the spirits, monsters, and beings who drifted just beyond the edge of what the eye could see. They weren't ghosts, exactly, though some were. Others, who were creatures born of nature, of forgotten wrongs, or of the gaps between belief and doubt. And they were everywhere, in old wells, in forests that never quite felt empty. You may imagine yourself now as a villager, sitting by a low fire, the smell of wood smoke curling softly around you. The cicadas have long fallen silent. Someone begins to tell a tale slowly, in a whisper that never rises above the crackling of the coals. You listen. You learn of the Yukiona, the snow woman. She appears on the coldest nights, with skin pale as death and robes that ripple like frozen silk. She floats through snowstorms, seeking the warmth of travelers. But if you meet her gaze, she might freeze your breath in your lungs. And yet, some tales say, she can fall in love. She may live as a human wife, gentle and silent, until the snow returns, and she disappears. Then, there is the Kasiobaka umbrella spirit, more comical than cruel. It is said to be born from an old, discarded umbrella, one that has served its purpose too long. It grows a single leg, one large, unblinking eye, and hops around at night, startling the unwary, or the Napara bee, the faceless one, a figure that looks perfectly human until you see its face. And there is nothing there. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin like undisturbed rice paper. It speaks without a voice, and fades without a sound. But not all yōkai were so strange. Some were born from emotion. The Onryu, for instance, are spirits of deep resentment, often women wronged in life, who return, not with screams, but with presence. A flicker of movement behind a screen, a mirror fogging over without breath, a chill, not from the wind, but from memory. In the Edo period, belief in such spirits was not considered foolish. It was a part of life and death, and the long, quiet space in between. Even samurai were not immune. It was said that those who broke vows or acted without honor could be haunted by their shame. Their swords might rust, their dreams disturb, their homes no longer quiet, even when empty. Artists, too, embraced these tales. In woodblock prints and ink paintings, they captured these beings, elongated, ethereal, eerie, yet somehow still familiar, as though the artist had seen them or perhaps felt them. And so these stories endured. They passed from mouth to mouth, from dusk to dusk, sometimes told as warnings, sometimes told just to pass the time. And even today, in quiet corners of Japan, people still leave offerings. A coin for a forgotten spirit, a bowl of rice for a guest who never knocks. Not because they are afraid, but because in some part of them they remember. So if you ever walk through a bamboo grove and the wind stirs, but no branches move, you might be sharing that path. Not alone, not quite, just accompanied by the past. Now, we leave this world of drifting spirits and gentle shadows behind. We return to the waking world of polished floors, fragrant incense, and whispered commands. And in our final segment tonight, we will explore the polished and privileged world of the shogunate's elite. A world where silence was power, where elegance hid control, and where life, even at the top, was bound by ritual. As we leave the wooden corridors of the shogun's world behind, let your thoughts drift back across all we've seen tonight. The long, thankless labor of the samurai's servant, the patient, solemn revenge of the 47 Rōnin, the strange and silent world of spirits and shadows, and the gilded, restrained life of the elite. All were threads in the complex fabric of feudal Japan. And now, that world rests. The swords are sheathed, the lanterns have dimmed, the voices have faded into stillness. Let the rhythm of their lives, so different from our own, guide you now into sleep. For though their struggles were many, you are safe, here, in this quiet moment. Far from duty, far from ritual, far from the weight of history. Good night and thank you for wandering with me. Now let us pass through tall wooden gates, beneath the watchful eyes of gods who never speak, into the grand, serene stillness of a shogunate castle. Not a place of chaos or noise, but of precision, of control, and, above all, of quiet power. Imagine yourself walking across polished wooden floors. The soles of your socks make no sound. The scent of cedar and ink lingers in the air. Walls are made of paper stretched tight over thin wooden frames, shishi filtering the light into a soft, perpetual dawn. You are in the home not just of a lord but of the most powerful men in Edo period Japan. The shogunate is in control. And this castle is both a home and a symbol, a fortress of etiquette as much as it is of stone. The day begins early, not with shouting but with the muted rustle of servants, the clack of getter sandals on stone courtyards, and the subdued murmur of whispered greetings. The shogun's household is vast. There are retainers, concubines, guards, stewards, and scribes. Each has their place, each has their path, and each knows exactly where and when they may walk. The shogun himself moves little, and yet his presence defines the entire space. When he eats, others wait. When he speaks, others bow. And when he is silent, which is often, others must read the space between his words. He does not cook. He does not clean. He does not lift a hand to carry a scroll or pour a cup of tea, but he rules through ritual, through tradition, and through the quiet weight of inherited authority. Meals are simple. Thank you so much. Delicate care. Rice steamed to perfection. Fish salted just enough to coax out its hidden sweetness. Pickled vegetables arranged like a still life painting. A misplaced bowl, a bite taken too early, a clumsy bow. Any of these could ripple outward, with consequences no one will speak of aloud. Beneath the surface elegance lies something unspoken, an ever-present tension, because even here, especially here, power is never truly safe. Letters are read behind closed doors. Loyalties shift as slowly and silently as seasons. Women in the inner quarters live lives of exquisite stillness. Many are concubines, selected for their beauty, grace, or family ties. But once inside, they seldom leave. Their world becomes a handful of rooms, a garden, and a circle of influence defined by glances, poetry, and silk. They play the koto, a long wooden harp whose notes fade like breath. They speak in riddles and layered compliments, and behind their calm faces, they strategize on behalf of their children, their families, their futures. Beyond the private chambers, there are grand halls, reception rooms with golden screens, paintings of tigers and cranes staring down from every corner. Not simply decoration, but messages, symbols of vigilance and restraint. There is the garden, perfectly manicured, rocks arranged to look as though they fell there by chance, when in truth, each one was placed with care and consensus, much like everything in this world. Here, time feels slower. Even the seasons seem to bow to the castle's rhythms. Spring cherry blossoms drift across the courtyard like pale snow. In summer, cicadas sing softly behind bamboo blinds. Autumn brings the crunch of dry leaves swept daily, and winter hushes the world beneath thin veils of frost. Those who lived here, who ruled here, were not warriors in the traditional sense. Their battles were of paperwork, protocol, and patience. Their weapons were silence, delay, and gesture. To live in the shogunate castle was to live within a performance where every movement had meaning and every pause held weight. Even at the height of luxury, there was no freedom, only form. And so, the castle endures not as a relic of violence, but as a monument to control, to subtlety, and to the quiet theater of power.